late. Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans it. Goodness. Rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
Michelle Obama's polished image just met its match, and Greg Gutfeld isn't holding back. With sharp wit and relentless irony, he tears through the media-glossed layers of America's favorite First Lady-turned-lifestyle icon. From curated virtue to carefully crafted branding, nothing escapes his comedic scalpel. This isn't just a takedown, it's a brutal, hilarious reality check that turns public reverence into a full-blown roast.
Obama's new podcast is off to a slow start, ranked at number 34 on Spotify. In her defense, most people don't like her.
Half of them are probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, he had to adjust to what on time was for me.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3 o'clock, he's getting up and going to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, like 3 o'clock departure means you've done all that, It's like, don't start looking for your glass.
If you thought Michelle was untouchable, just wait until Greg Gutfeld takes the stage. He walked in with that signature glint in his eye, the kind that warns something devastatingly funny is about to unfold. And tonight, all the fire was aimed at one target, Michelle Obama. The tension built like a low rumble before a thunderclap. This wasn't going to be polite. It wasn't going to be filthy. It was classic Gutfeld. A roast served flaming hot, dished out with a smirk and a verbal crowbar.
Have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
What's that pitter-patter sound I'm hearing in the background? It's the footsteps of Barack running to vote for Trump.
He opened by setting the stage the way only Greg Gutfeld can. A press release. Gutfeld marveled at how the former First Lady seemed to drift through the political cosmos like a unicorn made of hope, kale, and podcast sponsorships. But tonight, Greg wasn't buying the fairy tale. He came armed with comedic napalm. No amount of inspirational book tours could put out the flames.
They run Michelle. According to a new poll, Michelle Obama isn't as strong a Democratic candidate against former President Donald Trump as many Dems would have you believe. In a hypothetical matchup, my favorite kind. Trump wins with 47% of the vote compared to Michelle Obama's 44%. I guess some of the kids whose school lunches she ruined are finally old enough.
He dove straight into the branding. Michelle, once introduced as the down-to-earth mom from the South Side, had somehow evolved into a multi-million-dollar juggernaut of carefully curated relatability. Gutfeld pointed out the irony, how she went from planting vegetables on the White House lawn to raking in Netflix deals larger than government contracts. Sneaker lines, speaking fees, the size of small nations' GDPs, yet the media still portrayed her as some outsider bravely challenging the system. Greg didn't buy it. She wasn't outside the system, she was monetizing it, franchising it, and doing it with a smile so polished it should have come with a trademark.
I think you said this before, Tyra. She can't run because if she were to lose to Trump, it would be the most humiliating loss in history.
Well, not just, I don't know if I think I said that and you added that, but we'll take.
You also said that I look great.
Listen, Republicans, she just kicked our ass. She's up 15 points. I noticed this weekend. I'm just going to speak on it. We can't play with a lead. Every time Republicans, we get a lead, we do something.
Then came the myth-making. Gutfeld took a flamethrower to the media's breathless obsession with Michelle's every move. He joked that she could walk into a room, trip over a chair, and the headlines would call it a bold metaphor for resilience. She could blink, and the press would publish think pieces on the strength of her eyelashes. To Gutfeld, this wasn't admiration, it was worship. And not the kind with candles and choirs, but the hollow, performative kind that turns people into products. The media didn't just love Michelle Obama. They canonized her, built a brand, then wrapped it in sainthood. And what's a roast for? if not to rip the halo clean off and hold it up for laughs?
Michelle thinks American men suck.
Let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. To the women listening,
He peeled back the manufactured image, pointing out how every appearance, every soundbite, and every facial expression seemed meticulously crafted. Nothing felt spontaneous. Every moment was a calculated performance. Greg compared it to watching a TED Talk directed by Disney. Polished, inspirational on the surface, but ultimately hollow. The audience always clapped, even if they couldn't quite remember what had been said. Gutfeld mocked how Michelle had perfected the art of making vague, feel-good statements sound profound. Say something obvious in a slow, serious tone. Pause. For dramatic effect and boom, headline, gold. But his critique didn't stop at the presentation. He dug into the ideology behind the image. He took aim at the narrative of victimhood, cloaked in couture. The idea that Michelle, a global icon with immense wealth and influence, was still portrayed as fighting an uphill battle against unnamed forces. Greg found the contradiction exhausting. He joked that the only real oppression Michelle Obama faces is the back pain her crew gets from hauling lighting rigs and teleprompters to her next multi-million-dollar speaking gig.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way, Tyrus. The men who are the real danger aren't the criminals or the illegal aliens. It's the guys that don't vote the way you want them to.
The ignorance that she projected as if the men are the only ones angry in the house. So every man who's been in a house where inflation's high, the electric bill's doubled, you're not getting cheers from the wife and kids. They're complaining.
Then there was the infamous moralizing. Greg Gutfeld unloaded on it like a man who'd been holding it in for years. Michelle Obama's speeches about health, nutrition, and living your best life always came, he joked, with the energy of a disappointed schoolteacher. America wasn't being inspired, it was being scolded. Gutfeld compared her tone to that of a substitute teacher who actually brought detention slips and planned to use them all. Even the simplest advice, like eat more vegetables, somehow carried a thick layer of guilt, like if you didn't comply, you were personally letting Michelle down. And of course, no roast would be complete without tearing into the legacy building. Greg shredded what he called the Oprahfication of Michelle Obama, the documentaries, the autobiographies, the polished photo ops. To him, it all felt less like a journey of empowerment and more like a one-woman campaign to install statues of herself before even leaving the building. Every quote was framed, every moment curated, every memory packaged like a collectible dot. Any criticism off limits. Gutfeld rolled his eyes at how even mild pushback was instantly dismissed with cries of sexism, racism, or the blanket excuse that America just can't handle a strong woman. He deadpanned that he almost gave himself whiplash from rolling his eyes too hard.
Were you surprised that Michelle Obama is not polling better? Because I assumed she would just explode.
No, I mean, well, I would expect her to do better than Biden. I mean, especially she's of a younger age, I think greater mental capacity, and the way the border is going, I don't think you can get much worse. However, it is surprising that even among independents and as well as Democrats overall,
He pointed out that Michelle Obama had become the only person in America who could sell out stadiums, land global deals, and still claim to be silenced. That's not being unheard, Gutfeld quipped. That's being amplified through 1,000 microphones. While still complaining about the volume, the crowd ate it up. Then came the self-comparisons. Gutfeld couldn't resist. He painted a picture of Michelle Obama flipping through glowing press clippings about herself like they were bedtime stories. She's not just narrating her life, he said. She's directing it, casting it, and charging admission at the door. And that was pure gold for Greg. He dubbed her the podcaster-in-chief, dropping pearls of wisdom to an audience already convinced she could do no wrong. He mocked the format as less of a conversation and more of a sermon with background, music, and a merch table. Each episode he imagined was engineered to be just profound enough to be quoted, just emotional enough to go viral, and just vague enough to mean absolutely nothing. But beneath all the glitz, Gutfeld zeroed in on the double standards. How Michelle could wade deep into political commentary, throw sharp rhetorical jabs, and then be framed by the media as somehow above the fray. Greg compared it to someone playing dodgeball while wearing a judge's robe, lobbing shots, then claiming immunity.
It's just the men are the ones trying to solution, and their solution is to vote for President Trump. And here's the thing, their women are backing them up. So take that little message, curl it up in a little box, and give it to Mr. Garrison.
She could attack, insinuate, campaign and then vanish behind the velvet curtain of moral superiority the moment anyone pushed back. Greg called it not just frustrating, but brilliant. He gave her credit. Michelle had mastered the game while convincing everyone she wasn't even playing it. If Michelle wore jeans, he joked, it was a protest against tyranny. If she wore heels, it was a fiscal policy statement. He imagined fashion editors scrambling like diplomats at a G7 summit, analyzing her blouses as if they were decoding the Dead Sea Scrolls. Gutfeld wasn't impressed. To him, the obsession said more about our culture than about her clothes. Then came the family brand. Not the people themselves, but how perfectly the image was packaged and monetized. Gutfeld pointed out that everything Michelle touched turned into a branding opportunity. A dinner became a movement. A photo op became a national holiday. He joked. If she took a walk, CNN would call it a masterclass in leadership. If she waved, someone would write a thesis. And if she sneezed, there'd be 3 book deals, a podcast episode, and a UNICEF campaign before the tissue even hit the trash.
But you can tell when she campaigns for Kamala, she looks like a bridesmaid giving a toast on her friend's 5th wedding.
Right.
Like she knows this is a bad idea, and no one gives a The only thing she's missing is a Cosmo and the hiccups.
What made the roast both sting and sore was how Greg Gutfeld wrapped it all in undeniable wit. He wasn't attacking Michelle Obama the person. He was dismantling Michelle Obama the brand. The myth, the endlessly promoted symbol of modern virtue. He reminded viewers that when everything you do is choreographed to perfection, it becomes nearly impossible to tell what's real anymore. Because at the end of the day, Michelle Obama's greatest accomplishment wasn't just surviving the political world, it was mastering the post-political one. She turned herself into a movement, a product, a living ideal. And Greg, with a sparkle in his eye and a monologue still unfolding, was only getting started. He leaned in deeper, shifting gears like a man who knew he was nowhere near finished. The roast had barely scratched the surface. Now it was time to explore the layers, the blurred lines where image and reality mixed so seamlessly. Even Michelle herself might have forgotten where one ends and the other begins.
You be attracted to a guy who's not financially sound when you meet him?
I married one.
Don't you like?
He brought up the endless accolades not because they were undeserved, but because of how predictably they arrived. Like a red carpet of reverence. The media had built a shrine around Michelle Obama, treating any form of critique as if it were blasphemy. But Gutfeld wasn't there to worship. He was there to poke holes in the stained glass. He laughed at how everything surrounding Michelle had to be labeled historic or unprecedented. Even if it was just her launching a new line of throw pillows or hosting an Instagram live with a celebrity. Greg joked that she could simply walk into a kitchen and a documentary crew would instantly turn the moment into a metaphor for global healing.
Know that they're having a hard time with men.
Right.
Doesn't seem like this is the right strategy.
No.
She basically says that they're hurting women by voting for Trump.
But I think they don't understand that where it comes from in the first place is that people are sick of being told how bad they are and talked down to, and
It wasn't that Michelle Obama hadn't done impressive things, it was that even the ordinary was constantly inflated into the extraordinary. Like an air mattress pumped so full it floated above reality. Then came the activism. Gutfeld couldn't help but point out that while Michelle was endlessly praised for championing various causes, she rarely took any real risks. There was no tightrope walk. She built a marble runway and called it resistance. What really got Greg going, though, was how every time Michelle returned to the public spotlight, the media treated it like a grand reemergence from exile, as if the pause between podcast episodes was some kind of national silence. He compared it to a concert where the artist never actually leaves the stage, but just keeps doing encores until the crowd forgets what the original song was. And that, he said, was the real trick: keep the spotlight on long enough and people forget there's a script behind the shine. But Greg hadn't forgotten.